Crusaders recover as Havili drops a little kick up behind. Here's Will Jordan. Well out beautifully to Reese. Now the chase is on. He centre kicks an old-fashioned centre. And goodness gracious, Kyle Preston is there again.
What have we witnessed? You often do not see that. The double kick. That was outstanding because the precision needed in the bounce of the ball.
From Loftus, sends it wide to Emil Funderman, has some space to run into, gets away, chips it over the top. Can he put a repeat of his try against the Storms in Cape Town? He tries, but Marty Slow follows up for another try to the home team. As the Stormers can pull off something spectacular.
Oh, the ball out the back hasn't got a hand. Mabasiri latches onto it. Could he go all the way? Harold Foster gets chase, but he won't catch him. Massive week, Super Rugby Pacific kicked off with the bang on Friday, and headlines haven't stopped rolling in since. The biggest shock of this past week, Warren Gatland is out as a Wales head coach after another tough Six Nations campaign. We've got it all here on the Rugby Scoop, the latest, the earliest, the newest information on the go. Okay, latest news making headlines this past week. Springbok camp to be held by Rassie Erasmus, I think from the next coming weeks. He's given a list of names, I think it's 56 if I'm not mistaken, of players that have been invited to the Springbok camp, of the first Springbok camp of the season. And obviously, as I've said earlier as well, Warren Gatland having left the Welsh post. Other names have come up on the list of people to take over Warren Gatland. Franco Smith, who we all know is part of the Glasgow Warriors team currently. Simon Easterby, who's currently the caretaker coach with the Irish team. And a surprise, Michael Cheika has also been a name that has been thrown around to take over Warren Gatland. But currently, Matt Sharrett is the guy that's currently looking after the Welsh team as an interim coach. And also, apparently, news making headlines this past week is that Ireland do not need 15 players to beat a Welsh Six Nations team. This coming from Ireland. Ireland don't need 15 players. Apparently 12 players can do it. Just like the Sharks against the Blue Bulls. Anyway, New Zealand Rugby CEO Mark Robinson told News Talk ZB that there's no appetite to change policy. This is regarding overseas-based players in New Zealand, so they will stick to what they know. They're not going to change anything. And I see Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has also opened up a personal account or a personal TV channel on YouTube. Go check it out and see what is happening over there. It won't be about referees. I hope. English club Exeter Chiefs are eyeing the services of Stormers hooker Joseph Dweba apparently, and Carlos Sardi, Bulls prop, has been bought out of his Blue Bulls contract by French club Bordeaux. Can you believe it? Not by myself, with the old faithful from the bloom, from the hotness, from the heat in South Africa, landlocked province, Free State, Bloemfontein. Jade, how's it going?
All good. I'm just thinking now, Carlos Sardi and Big Ben is going to be in the same team at Bordeaux. What a scrap. And I was at buffet going to look at breakfast, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it seems like there's enough props at the Blue Bulls currently, and they've got enough in their arsenal. I mean, to let a prop like Carlos Sardi to be bought out of contract. Of course, he probably wasn't happy, because I don't think he's had a lot of game time, Jade, at Blue Bulls, Carlos Sardi.
Yeah, I even forgot he was at the Bulls, right? I even forgot he was at the Bulls. I mean, it's been Volko Rowe, it's been getting all the headlines, grabbing the headlines at the Bulls. But Carlos Sardi is a decent prop. He's more than capable, and I think he's one, if he continues to perform and should perform fullback is match fit. I mean, he could be in this, bigger box squads. Moving on, but yeah, it's a good prop.
No, fair enough. Without wasting any time, conversations, we're going to kick things off with Super Rugby and then head off to South Africa with the URC. Stormers versus Lions. The hashtags are coming. Blue Bulls versus Sharks. I've already seen Dabezindo has already wrote his first hashtag. He's got it. It's under the post. Hashtag JW. You can finish that sentence. Anyway, Jade, kicking off with Super Rugby, what are your thoughts? What were your highlights? How good was the Super Rugby round 1?
Good. It was good. It was refreshing. Games didn't go according to script. I think if you actually look at the form book over the past few years, bar the Crusaders having a hard season last year, there's a few Aussie teams, that did well. I mean, you look at the Brumbies going to Fiji, scraping a win there. I mean, you don't expect the Brumbies or a team just to go through to Fiji and win, regardless of how many injuries the Drua had. But overall, looking at it, I mean, just looking at how the game of the Force and Moana Pacifica ended yesterday, I mean, been absolutely brilliant. I've been entertaining, lots of running rugby, a few defensive glimpses here or there, but it's been absolutely brilliant. Actually, I saw that in the Force and Moana game, there was over 300 tackles made in that game. So, regardless of the scoreline, it was 45-44. I mean, it was quite a lot of tackles in that game. You can point fingers at defensive coaches all you want from up north, but it was entertaining. There was razzle-dazzle, and I think it was a breath of fresh air,
Yeah. Speaking about the North, I mean, we've seen a lot of, don't want to say negative, but a lot of fishing coming from our northern pundits on the timeline, obviously talking about defense, talking about Super Rugby having the most glorious tries, etc., right? But, I mean, if we look at the context of how the game is being played down under and how the game is being played within the URC aspect, right? I mean, what I noticed just from the first round alone, the amount of times teams were given penalties and in kickable positions, right, during the games, and they would always 60% of the time or 70% of the time, they would opt for going for touch in Super Rugby. But when it comes to a URC perspective, or besides maybe one or two South African teams, which I noticed that they would actually opt for the touchline instead of going for 3. I think that brings about a massive difference when it comes to the amount of tackles you've mentioned, Jade. I mean, one game with over 300 tackles, and I'm sure there must be well over 120 rucks or 150 rucks per game within Super Rugby aspect, because there's a lot of ball in play, there's a lot of continuity being exerted within certain facets. I mean, those are serious differences within the two competitions. One competition is promoting a lot of rugby in play and is promoting a lot of tries being scored. One is promoting a lot of maybe defensive expertise, kicking at goal, and most of the time using a lot of set piece plays, right? Some of the two differences that I noted, for example, I don't know, what did you see in terms of the penalty aspect within kickable range and teams going for touch or teams going for pulls?
Yeah, no, look, it was evident yesterday. I mean, you could see there was more, where captains looked for the opportunities to score tries instead of extending the lead. Bar maybe the Chiefs and the Blues coming up, but we even saw the Blues turning down the 3 a few times going for the corner against the Chiefs. So they've always tried to be positive. But I mean, if you just want to look at it from a perspective of there wasn't so many scrums in Super Rugby compared to, the URC, for example. So if you look at a game like the Bulls versus the Sharks yesterday, where there was so much scrums, there was so many handling errors, But if you're looking at Super Rugby perspective, there's less scrums, meaning that there was less negative or unforced errors coming either from, a screw throwing or a knock on, or maybe kicking the ball over the dead goal line. So, coming from those, unforced errors. So maybe you could just think that maybe the skill level is a little bit higher at Super Rugby. Maybe they focus a lot more on skill where, URC is more structured, more tactical, in that aspect. But, in both on this, we praise both competitions. I mean, Super Rugby is refreshing. Every URC and European rugby is entertaining as well. We can't just go in and say Super Rugby is dazzle, but if you look at the last results from the URC where you have a French club putting 80 points on the English club. So what does that what does that show you? How can you compare the two competitions? We say the one that's just basketball, back and forth points being scored. However, you're getting a French team putting 80 points on the English team. So, I mean, what do you want to see, basketball or one-sided mixture?
No, fair. One of the highlights for the weekend or the blockbuster game was obviously the Chiefs against the Bulls or against the Blues. But, I mean, there were games on Friday. I mean, what did you take out from the Crusaders, Hurricanes game, and obviously Waratahs? Actually, Australian teams beating New Zealand sides over the weekend. Massive for Australia.
Just one New Zealand side. Let's not be Justin Harrison here now. Let's not be Justin Harrison here.
New Zealand sides, Australian sides too.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we're going to say Moana is the New Zealand side. We can actually say so. But let's look at it this way. I think the Crusaders, the first game, the Crusaders needed that win more than the Canes needed the win. We all know the Canes need the 10. I mean, I was just looking at the balance yesterday. I mean, you had a guy like David McKenzie and Bowden Barrett playing 15 yesterday for their respective teams, but you're having a Hurricanes playing a 15 and 10 because they don't have any flour or quality flour available, because I think it's Cameron that's injured and one or two other injuries as well there that they have in the camp. Ruben Love was injured. But if you're looking at the past, especially with New Zealand rugby, what they always got right, they always got the shape right in terms of who goes where, so that the depth is there. I think maybe the depth calculators is not that good this year. I think if you look at the Blues, for example, they have Barrett, Plummer and Perfecta at 10, where maybe one of them in the past would have went to a team like the Hurricanes, to give them more depth, especially with Morgan going overseas. So I think the Hurricanes, they struggled. They need an out-and-out flower. I don't know if there's somebody from the academy, what's this kid like Cashmore, something like that, maybe come through. I'm not sure if they're going to do it. I don't know if it was really wise to let Bishop, join Moana Pacific. Maybe he should have just stayed concerning the injury crisis they have at 10. But, I mean, Scoop, we spoke about it on our group. How good is it to see Will Jordan crack it up in Super Rugby? I mean, it's just class. It's just fun to watch, to see him play at this level. Really, I mean, every time he got the ball, he was all active. I mean, even a guy like, David Abili, Ty Kemara, and the young scrum of Preston that came on early on. All that good games, even Savories as well. For me, I think Penny and the Crusaders needed that win. They didn't want to start again in the negative and have the same issues from last year, carrying through to the squad. So they needed the win more than the Canes. The Canes will go back to basics again. They will be there and thereabouts in the semi-finals, but the Crusaders needed that win. I liked how the attacking shape. I like how running off and running lines. I mean, look, James O'Connor putting Will Jordan through that one gap. It's just they're running line, running off each other, always running. We know that the one try, I think it was Preston, where he skipped the ball back in with his left foot, just showing that you completely still continue to run your line, regardless of what happens in the game. Still continue to run. And for me, that's just evident, and that's old school of Crusader rugby, basically. So yeah, the first game, I really think, I don't know how you feel about that first game, but I think Crusaders went well, but they needed the win more than the Canes, actually.
Yeah, I think, true. I mean, that's a very good point that the Crusaders actually needed a win, because looking at how they finished last year and last season, it was a lot of negative headlines around the team itself. I mean, they had a lot of injuries as well. I mean, Jordan didn't even play a single Super Rugby game last year. So, I mean, seeing him back, seeing JOC at the first five for the Crusaders was pretty good. They look more organized at this point and look more balanced in terms of the loose trio. They have an all-black loose trio now, which is pretty good. We have Blackadder, you have Grace, and then you have, what's his kid's name now? Because he was also called up into the... Leo Willie, yeah. He was also called up in the All Blacks 15 and also into the All Blacks camp, which is good for them. Then you had Barrett, who copped a yellow card as not being a captain, which is not unfamiliar at this point. But, they've got an all-black front row now. And they've got a good bench as well, which is good. As to your point about the Hurricanes, I think maybe a guy like Love being injured, or I don't know what's happened to him, has also maybe created a gap at that fly-off position. But for me, the most interesting one was the Waratahs. To be honest, I think the Highlanders, under proper guidance of Jamie Joseph, looked good enough to be there and thereabout within that game, and also competitive, better than last season. They look structured on D. They've got a blitz winger on the trenches there. I forgot his name as well, new guy, but they look organized because Jamie Joseph fighting or coaching against Simon Rauluni, who was the coach of Fiji last year in 2023's World Cup. You've got Steve McCallum, who's been a part of the Aussie coaching squad as well. They've got Mike Catt, who was part of the Irish team in the past couple of years. They've got a very solid coaching team at Waratahs, and if they get things right, and some of the players from the Rebels have gone to Waratahs. So I think that's one team maybe to keep an eye on, especially in their home games. And it's going to be a tall task to go over to Sydney again. It reminds me of earlier in the 2000s when the Waratahs had the likes of your Phil Wars. They had your likes of I think Takiri was there at one point, and a few other big names. And obviously it was very tough in those years to actually go to Sydney, to New South Wales, and get a win. And looking at Saturday's results, I think a lot is brewing at Sydney, and a lot is brewing within that Australian camp in terms of rugby and in terms of what's going to happen in July this year with the Lions touring that side, touring the country. So yeah, just keep an eye on what's happening there, and keep an eye on those coaches, the three coaches that are looking after that team. It's going to be a lot of things happening there, and they're also going to be transferring all those players with also a guy like Saului at the back. It kind of reminds you, or it shows glimpses of a player like Israel Folau at the back there. And the more rugby he plays, the better, or the longer the competition goes, and he goes through the whole competition without getting an injury. It's going to be very good for his confidence. It's going to be very good for him probably getting a start now for the Wallaby jersey as well. Still to come, guys. Don't forget, we're still going to look after the URC competition, the South African phase, and some of the results that have taken place in the north as well. But yeah, Jade, your thought on the Australian teams, though, from the weekend itself, because I know we like to cover the New Zealand sides, but they've been dominant for such a long time. But to kick off a season this past weekend the way they have, maybe we need to also give them props for how they've performed.
Yeah, we need to give them props. It just shows you that, with one team like the Rebels falling apart or falling away basically, and players are absorbing into other teams, I think the Force and the Waratahs are the two big beneficiaries from that. Of coaching up those players from the Rebels. I think that, especially with the Tars, with the amount of IP and play we do have there, I'll say the dark horses for this competition. If you look at that Australian pack, I put out a tweet on Friday. I said, as good as Joseph Swahili is, a guy like Angus Bell needs to keep fit and for Australian rugby, because on his day he can be one of the best loose sets in the world. I think he's the best carrier of the ball in terms of in that Australian team. And especially from a prop, it's all over the park. He makes meters, he makes tackles. It's not a bad scrummager. And when you had what's the guy's name? The hooker, Dave Barretti, coming back. He He came back after a year out. He tore his Achilles after the World Cup and played the rugby last year. And then obviously Tadala Tupo, joining him as well. So they've got a good base, got a good back and forth there. But you know what? I think what the eye with the Tars, when they were down in the last 2 minutes and chasing the game, they actually picked up and drive for like for 35 meters, 20 to 35 meters. And for me, that's un-Australian, rolling up the sleeves, going through the middle, picking up drive. And it's just maybe something that, maybe Dan McKellar brought in or Saran Rarui brought in, it's just, you never ever see that from Australian teams. So pick up and drive. Once they see they don't make meters, they spin the ball wide. That's how they play. They like the short passes, that's Australian rugby, runners or short passes. But really rolling up your sleeves and, getting the victory at the end, for me, I think, well done to them. Like the Brumbies, like I said, it's difficult to go to the draw and to get that victory there. I mean, they'll always be a championship team, and looking at the players they do have at their disposal, that team doesn't really change year in, year out. It's the same team, basically. And then the Force, I'm not sure. Did Moana just, forget about the game when the last 5 minutes we get to play? But they got the win at the end of the day, so that's a win at home, and I really didn't fancy them after the first half to really win, to beat Moana Pacifica. But these big guys putting up big performances. If you're looking at a guy like Donaldson and White controlling the game for the Force yesterday, Australia's screaming out for another 10, a flower that can control the game and win them games, and that's what Donaldson did yesterday. Like I said, World Rugby needs a healthy Australia and a strong Australia. Fans don't need a strong Australia because they've got so much financial benefit in that country. They're a sport-loving country. And for me, it was nice to see, the big crowds out in Australia, coming at the start. So I hope they can continue to win so they don't lose that interest. But well done to the Australian teams. I think the Rebels moving out and the other teams would have got much stronger with getting the play.
Yeah, 100%. Before then we jump onto the URC aspect, Damian McKenzie at 15 for the Chiefs, Bowden Barrett at 15 for the Blues. Good or bad idea on Saturday's blockbuster at the Garden?
I think if you look at conditions and the way it was raining at Eden Park, I think that, maybe it was not a good decision. And you look at the game played out, especially in the second half, where Dave McKenzie came into his own, he man caught Ratana and Narawa, and those guys came into their own and won the game, basically. So it was I think that McMillan didn't make the best decision there by playing him at 15. But at this kid, Josh Jacob is not a bad flower as well. I don't know how fit was Dave McKenzie. If you look at the way the Chiefs selected their team, because a lot of guys that played in pre-season, they played the 2 warm-up games, those guys that they played 60, 70 minutes already, so they had kilos on their clock. The Blues went the other way. They selected guys that didn't have kilos on their clock, and you can see, especially in the second half, how they faded away in the game. So I think maybe that's to do with that, getting the guys with kilos on their clock got the opportunity to start. And I don't think Bowden Barrett and McKenzie really had that big of a pre-season compared to the other guys. So maybe the coaches took it from that perspective and slotted him at 15. But then you could see, Bowden Barrett was ineffective at 15. He should be playing 10. If he's not playing 10, a guy like him, effective, should be playing 10. Eric Plummer, he did well yesterday, last year when he slotted him at 10. But those are just different gravy, as a attacking foul and marshalling the team around the park, compared to a guy like Eric Plummer. But David McKenzie, every time he got the ball again, looked dangerous on Saturday. I think, a guy like in Super Rugby is his fortress. We never judge him and say he's playing bad. In Super Rugby always does well there. It's that next step, that we're always judging him. So we know how good he is in this competition. He's one of the best players in this competition. So yeah, he did well at 10. But one thing that I want to mention is on the game on Saturday, it's just interesting to see, Scoop, and I want a perspective from you, how much a few guys that was in the All Black team last year and compare them to this year, looking at how much they actually bulked up. They actually bulked up a lot. I think a guy like Tupo Vai looked like he put on a weight. Josh Broad looked like he put on weight from a Chiefs perspective. So maybe they're looking at that and saying, right, the only way you guys are really going to make it and be effective international level is if you bulk up, because you do not have the weight that we need to play against the France and the South Africans. So, but that's promising for New Zealand rugby.
Yeah. I noticed that as well. I think it's one of the guys was having one of the interviews I think I heard from who's this new kid on the block now, Leroy at the Chiefs. Leroy Carter, yes. In one of the interviews, he was talking to Mills Muliaina, and he was talking about during this past season, I was told I need to bulk up a bit, put on some meat but basically, and he was talking about how some of the teammates have also been on a good routine in terms of the dietary intake or supplement, if you prefer. So yeah, there is something along those lines that's brewing, where the players now probably do need, especially the forward pack, do need to actually bulk up and compete, right, against the heavier packs around the globe. But I mean, there's not a lot of difference, right? I mean, maybe if odd kilo here and there wouldn't hurt, but as long as the players still don't lose that athletic ability, as much as they gain, put on some mass to compete around the world stage, I guess. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts regarding D-Mac and Bowden Barrett. Yeah, Bowden Barrett was channeling his Ian Foster days at 15, to be honest. Ineffective, as you said. D-Mac, I think he played his cards very well. He wasn't too involved in the first half, because I think Anscombe just controlled things a bit better, and also the game plan from McMillan was pretty good in terms of fighting fire with fire. They also converted in from an expansive game and decided to go route one, so which is the Blues attack shape. So they also played the forward game throughout the 80 minutes. They did not back away. They confronted the Blues. The Blues were also confrontational. It was a bruising encounter of both forward packs. Actually, for the 12 players, from 1 to 12, it was a bruising encounter because the scrum halves were getting dragged in, the 10s were getting dragged in, the carries that either the 10 or the 12. I mean, if you look at a guy like who's the second 5'8" at the Chiefs, former All Black as well, he was also getting dragged in around the breakdown a bit, and he carried a few. He took a few carries around the breakdown as well, which was pretty good to see. I think he's also trying to fight for that All Black spot again as well. But I mean, well done to the Chiefs in terms of game plan, strategy. They executed to the T. As soon as the All Black guys came on, they were just confident in their carries, and they made meters in their carries. And you saw a lot of the Blues players kind of fade away from the 65th minute onwards. And like you said, they played guys who had mileage around the clock, and obviously the Blues changed their team from players that played in those preseason games and started a completely different team. But I guess the Blues will probably be a team that struggles in the beginning, first 2 weeks, but then builds up from that and actually becomes stronger the longer the competition goes. That's my thought. Anyway, moving ahead, URC, Jade. URC. Looking at the position, looking at the log currently, a lot of teams that we thought beginning of the season would be in the top 8, they drifting further and further away, but still plenty of rugby to be played, still a lot of home games to be played. Looking at the Stormers, we're going to start with the Stormers and the Lions. That's a big sigh. Let's kick off with the Stormers, Jade. With the current setup, with the current injuries, I'm seeing a lot of talk about injured backline players. But their forward pack is not as bad as everyone thinks it is in terms of being affected by injuries. They still have the big names within their setup, but the backs, they can't seem to gel without a Libok. They can't seem to gel without a Willemse. They can't seem to gel without the Sasha Feinberg Ngomezulu. And I was sitting there thinking, Matthew, I don't know, 10 minutes to go, he's trying a chicken wing flick pass. I don't know what was happening there. I think with 1 minute to go, he was trying to throw the ball between his legs. And you had a lot of influence from a guy like Gatland joining the backs at first receiver a few times. And the backline shape looked a bit different. And they looked to be going forward a bit better with Gatland at 10. Which kind of gave me a thought. I don't know, maybe Matthew is a good 15. He can be there and be very conservative at the back, catch, kick for territory, get the forwards in the right areas of the park. But looking at his control of the game at 10 and looking at how the forward pack was somehow dominated by the Lions, or Lions were quite disruptive in the ruck area, because those rucks, man, I don't know what was going on. But at the end of the day, the Stormers cannot buy a win because their structure is unorthodox, first of all, on attack, whether it be set piece from scrum, set piece from line out, and then phase play after phase play. If you stop the Stormers after the fourth or fifth phase, they don't know what to do after that. They get very confused on how to get over the line, because now Roos is not punching through tackles. He's getting stopped, actually, you know. Dixon is not punching through tackles. He's also getting stopped. Morat is not punching through tackles. He's also getting stopped. Now, where do they go to? Gatland is the only person who's punching through tackles and also creative enough to get them over the advantage line. What are your thoughts when you look at the Stormers side at this point?
Let's just stop it there with Gatland at 10. You know? I think the time that he did play 10, the Stormers was chasing the game. And for me, the Stormers' biggest problem is on defense. The outside channel, they got exposed so many times yesterday and copped so many points on that outside channel. They're not as dominant at the ruck. You clearly saw it yesterday, the amount of turnovers, and there were the Lions that disrupted them at the ruck. That was evident yesterday. However, I still believe that, you know, a guy like Simelane was a ski that played 12 as well yesterday. When you're given that opportunity, you're given a lifeline, you're given a chance to make your name, you're given a run in the team. So here's your chance, here's your run in the team. It's not just one game in, one game out. You got to take your opportunity if you're really thinking about your rugby. So it makes you think like, I don't want to crack on or really, you know, pick on this guy on Simelane, but if you're looking at a guy like that, you're thinking, what's the problem with him? You know, he's just not kicking on. Was Jake White correct? Did Jake White have something? That's why he sent him away. Because you don't want to see, you know, give it all of that talent in the world. 3 years ago was rated as the next Brian O'Driscoll. Now next year there's a big chance of him not getting an opportunity to the Stormers, maybe playing at the Pumas or the Griquas or the Cheetahs, you know, really going down because he's not taking his opportunity. But as far as Gatland at 10, I just don't know, man. I still believe that, you know, yeah, he did do well when he slotted in his cloud 3 times, you know, he did do well when he's a kind of a playmaker, but he's not the answer at 10. I mean, look at who they have at 10. What's going on in Western Province? You still have Vermaak playing prop against the Lions in 2000 and Brock Harris, you know, coming on at prop in 2025. You still have these guys playing. These guys should be in the past, you know, and I just see Tim Dulani on the call as well. But I mean, if these guys in the past, if you're looking back at the era where Tim then played, these guys would be Vodacom Cup players. They wouldn't be touching Super Rugby, you know. That's just how I feel about it. Is there no props in Western Province? What's happened to the kids after school? Where are they? What's happening to the guys coming through?
They're in Pretoria.
Are they in Pretoria? But there's so many schools there. There's so many quality players outside it. Where are these kids? What's happening to these players? Why are they not getting a step and moving up? I mean, you're looking at scrum off as well. Where's the Ima Kangs and all of those young guys, you know, that was brilliant at school level, at age group level? Where are they now? What's happening? Where's the gap? Why is there a gap at the Stormers between the school rugby and the professional rugby? Why are the kids not making a step up? Where are these kids? That's something that I don't know what's happening in terms of the Stormers. I mean, if you look at the Lions gets a kid and give him an opportunity. That kid's hungry. I mean, you always look at Gianni Lombard, came from the wilderness basically. The kid's hungry. He's playing good rugby again. The environment that Cash has there, giving these children and these kids opportunity, to make it, to go forward. Erico van Wyk, as much as we've been saying and praising, look on your arm and, the Lorenzo Juris and stuff and guys like that. This guy's knocking so hard on that box door for selection. He's not. He should get a cap this year the way he's playing, performing week in, week out in this Lions team. So, look at the attitude within the Lions camp and compare it to the Stormers. I don't think we're on the same level. Those kind of Lions are hungry. They're taking the opportunity. Unfortunately, the Lions, the problem, they don't have the depth. However, the Stormers, they've got all of the tools there. They're planting all of these crops there, but these crops are just not coming through. I mean, you're still sitting with Ali Vermaak and Brock Harris replacing each other. You are seeing that 2025. Come on.
Vermaak copying strays, my friend. But I mean, Jade, yes, I understand the frustration. I understand your point of view currently. It makes a whole lot of sense because the Stormers are one of the provinces or unions with a lot of money, right? I mean, from a school level, right through universities, right through the structures of Western Province, right through the structures of the Stormers, right? They should have a pathway of a lot of the players that make it through their Craven Week and the 6th Grand Gomo Week, first of all. They should have a pathway for a lot of the players that come through Craven Week. They should have a pathway for a lot of their players that make it through Varsity Cup. Actually, not even Varsity Cup. What's that under-20 competition? That junior under-21 as well. And leading up to Varsity Cup, leading up to the Shield as well, right? At this point, they're probably one of the wealthiest provinces when it comes to talent alone. And also one of the biggest provinces in the country when it comes to talent alone, bar the Eastern Province, right? At school level, right through up senior level. So there should be a pathway that should give a lot of players a lot of chances and opportunities to actually showcase their talent. But at this point now, is it a coaching problem? Looking at what transpired yesterday, you're talking about hungry kids at the Lions. We know the Lions have a very strong pathway of their kids making it through from a junior structure at Craven Week, at under-19s and under-21s, and right through to the Lions team. And then obviously some of those players, once they make it to the Lions team, they get bought by the big clubs like your Sharks, like your Blue Bulls, like your Stormers, etc. But they have problems with depth at this point in time. But luckily, a player like Ntlabaganye has been given an extension, so they get to keep at least some players, which means now they need to break the bank to keep some of those players, like your Kwan Horns, like your Frankie Horns, like your Ruan Fenters, because those are key players to actually build a solid foundation for this team. All they need now is a few added players to come through into their system to add on what they currently have. But the Stormers have the base, have the foundation, have the players at their disposal. They're not like the Sharks with 18 injuries. The Stormers don't have that. They only have 3 probably meaningful injuries when it comes to those fly-offs. But the rest of the players are kind of there and thereabout. They still have a Springbok at 9, for example, right? But then now, you mentioned the prop. They have issues there, right? You mentioned the forward pack. They have issues there. When is it now a coaching issue versus a player quality issue? Where do we make the difference, Jade? VAR is, I don't know my Afrikaans. What is difference in Afrikaans? Verskuld.
No, look, I think the one that you also missed out on there is Frankie Horns. He signed a contract extension with the Lions earlier last week as well. So I think he's also there going for the long term, which is good for them. But yeah, I think sometimes when you're a coach and you're winning and you're successful, and you start to go on that dip, on that slide. I don't know if Dobson has the tools to get out of this. I don't know. For the past 2 seasons, Storms have just been regressing. Yeah, you can look at a guy like, for example, Keke Morabe that unfortunately broke his leg again. I mean, he was pivotal in a Stormers team, carrying the ball, setting them up, etc. But I mean, they're not the same team they were 2 years ago. Did they run the race? I think they ran the race. I think Dobson and his team ran the race. But who takes over? Do you bring a guy like Van Ackerman in? Do you take the chance with a guy like Dwayne from Muirland? Who do you bring in there, to take over the Stormers team? What do you do? Because let's just look at this team. Let's look at the team that played last week against the Boland Cavaliers. They beat him. They had Dewald Dievenager and Justin Geduld playing 9 and 10 in that game. What message does that send to the rest of the guys, the younger guys at the Stormers? Yes, we can sugarcoat it and we can say, yeah, but some of the guys was trading for Marties and Aikis for the Varsity Cup. If you're going to give a guy an opportunity to play against Boland, you're going to speak to the boss and say, listen, I want to look at this guy because I have a crisis at 9 and 10. Yes, I know he's playing for the Marties or he's playing for Aikis, but let's see how he goes next week. I'm going to watch him closely. And if he does well, sorry, Stormers Rugby is a head of Marties, and the guy will also choose. He has to choose and say, no, I'm not playing for Varsity Cup this year, I'm going to play for the Storms. So, unfortunately, you're still sitting with situations like that. What does it help? What does it help the union? What does it help the players? The younger players coming through. If they're seeing Brock Harris, Elliot van Mark starting. In the B team, you have Justin Geduld and you have Dewald Dievenager playing there. Come on, guys, we can't do this. I mean, we've been talking week in, week out about this Africa. Then you want to know why the younger guys are not coming through at the franchise. There, just look at it there. That's where it needs to stop. That's where we need to see the younger guys, not Geduld and Dievenager.
Fair enough. There's a question, Jade, for you on the thread, and from Mumbumelelo is asking when Sasha and Dway and Damien and Mani come back, what does the back line of the Stormers look like?
Doesn't matter what the back line of the Stormers look like, but if the forwards are not giving them front football, those guys are going to do nothing, absolutely nothing. Obviously, you look at a guy like Damien slotting in at 15, and then maybe Gatland, moving to wing or something like that. You need to work it out. But you're going to have to make space for those four guys, Gatland, Damien, Sasha, and Lebok. Lebok can only basically play 10 or 15, so I think he'll stay at 10. Sasha is versatile. He'll play 12 or 10. But soon, that coach is going to have to make his decision, similar to, like I said, a few times already. He's going to have to make that decision Robbie Deans made in the 2000s, where he said, right, Andrew Mertens, you're better than Dan Carr at the moment, but Dan Carr is my long-term goal, my long-term future in this club, so I'm sorry, Dan Carr starts. So he's going to have to make a decision and say, Sasha, you start, Mani on the bench, if you're going to look at that, if he wants to really, get the best out of Sasha. Because for me, Sasha, he should be a 10. But I think he'll play it safe, he'll go 10 Mani, and he'll go 12 Sasha, Damien at the back, or something like that. He'll mix and match them. He can put Sasha on the bench to come on as well, so he can use his skills at Sasha the young and still learning. But yeah, it's a good selection problem to have if they're all fit. But at the moment, they're not all fit, and he's making a few terrible selections at the moment.
And Dan du Plessis, where does he go then? 13?
Dan du Plessis, look, Ruan now, right?
And Ruan now. And what's his name? Who played yesterday? Similani.
Nah, Similani needs to come on. We can't still be going. Similani's not taking his opportunity.
Cheaters then.
Greek was. He'll be playing then Hartfield in Kimberley soon. But yeah, I think Ruan now will start at 13 because he's always been the go-to guy if he's fit. But yeah, I don't know. Like, Dobbo knows the team better than me. He knows what he wants from the team because we said it there. This backline of the Stormers have been carrying the ball up more times than the forward. I mean, I honestly think Gatland has more first carries of 9 than what Samuel Murata has in his career. I honestly think that. Massive.
Hey, before we dwell too much on the Stormers, there's still another game that was big on Saturday. 12 men, 12 sharks, swimming in the Indian Ocean, swimming all the way to the Highveld in the deep blue sea of Loftus, because the seats are blue as well, right? How on earth does a team lose 12 players? It almost reminded me of the Sharks. I think they beat the Crusaders at home long time ago, and Sharks had 13 13 or 12 people or 14 people on the field. I think it was one of the Super Rugby semi-finals or something like that. Long, long ago, they beat the Crusaders away from home. They came back to South Africa and they made the finals. I think it's the same year, if I'm not mistaken, 2007, or if not 2006, around that era. But nonetheless, those sharks, man, swam from the Indian Ocean, the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, into the land of Jake White, Loftus Versfeld. I mean, that game, topsy-turvy, Blue Bulls opened an encounter, obviously scored the first try. Sharks came back, scored from a set piece. I mean, they looked at what Western Province did. I think it was Stormers did last week or 2 weeks ago, where in their line-out, the Sharks were also had a tactic of throwing the ball off the top as well. They weren't bringing it to ground. So every time Chituka went up in the air, he found Williams from the top, and they played off the top a few times, actually. I guess within that tactic as well, you kind of deceive your opposition in thinking that you're going to maul, but you don't maul, and the ball comes off the top. It's quick ball and phase play from those moments onwards. And one of the tries came from that once they made their way into the Blue Bulls 22. But, I mean, 3 yellow cards, Blue Bulls. So the Sharks get a prop. Sharks get a prop yellow carded and a lock yellow carded. Blue Bulls are within 40 meters of the Sharks try line. They get a penalty. Blue Bulls opt to go for touch in this situation, Jade. The Blue Bulls opt to go for touch. I'm looking at the TV screen and I'm thinking, they've got two most prominent people in the forward pack sitting on the sideline. If the Blue Bulls opt to go for a scrum, that means the Sharks need to sacrifice a few players, and the big chance is they're going to sacrifice a few backline players to come onto the sideline just to make up a lock and to make up for a prop. And still, the Bulls will still dominate that scrum, regardless, because they've been dominating the scrums. So if the Sharks have, I don't know who they had in the bench for the forward pack, but regardless of that, I'm sitting and watching this game and thinking to myself, if they do that, they've got a mismatch on numbers in the backs. All they have to do, catch, draw, and pass. One simple strike play. Right? One simple strike play, whether they're passing off the back or in the boot, as some of the people call it. But at the end of the day, all they have to do is catch, look, pass, catch, look, pass, catch, look, pass, drawing in defenders, score a try because they've got extra numbers. But they don't do that. They opt for a line-out, which the Sharks have been disrupting from minute one. They've been disrupting all their mauls from minute one. Now leadership comes in because they had a Springbok at first five or fly-off, who is Willie Leroux, who should be guiding those young players because they had a very young forward pack in those moments, right? Because they don't have a Nokia, they don't have what's the other guy's name, the flanker, the Springbok flanker, who's also led them as a captain. They also didn't have Hanakom. They also didn't have a Corbus Visa. But nonetheless, Willie should be telling those guys, listen, let's scrum. We'll have the numbers. We'll create something with the backs, and we score a try, and we extend the lead. But that went on for a good 5 to 6 minutes. They were camped in one area. They couldn't get through. They couldn't go over the advantage line. They had one-off runners, and then turnover. Sharks get a penalty, and one of their players is close to getting a yellow card, the Blue Bulls, but he doesn't get a yellow card. Sharks kick the ball, get a line out, 3, 4, 5 phases, tables have turned, and then things just went chaotic for the Blue Bulls. They couldn't catch aerial balls. They were terrible under the aerial bombs, and everything was in tatters from then onwards. There was no leadership. The defense was bad, and the Sharks capitalized, and they won that game with 12 people for a good period of that game. 20 to 30 minutes of that game. Jade, what went wrong? Before we open the mic for the listeners, we're gonna cover this one, and then once we're done, we're opening the mic. Think of what you need to say about your team from Saturday. Talk to me, Jade.
What went wrong? You explained it there. They had opportunity there. I mean, just to play smart. Take the scrum, like you say. With the scrum, you're going to get the free play. You're going to get the advantage from the scrum. And if they're going to collapse, you keep the ball in the back, you shove. Somebody in the scrum is going to collapse. You get the free play, you back into what they want to with the ball. And you 10 to 1, you're going to score from there. Where you're going to a line out, you can try and a line out ball. It's always a 50-50 chance, that they might stop it, they might infringe the ball, or they might contest or steal the ball. And that's what happened at the end of the day. Bad decision making, licking your lips, instead of just thinking of how to plan this. You could have put the Sharks out of the game. You could have scored 2 or 3 tries in those 10 minutes. Sharks would be out of the game and you'd win the game. Unfortunately, however, what happened, they conceded a try with who scored? Was it Hendricks scored from a right from Juris. And they conceded a try and it just took the win out of yourself. We just dropped their heads and I thought the Bulls gone. From there and the Sharks not losing this game. But if you look at the game, I mean, another good performance from Chuchuka, and I think Big Sales had a good game yesterday. But if you look at the Sharks, I mean, they'll think to themselves, how the hell did we win this one? How did we win this game? We should have no right to win in this game. And Jake White can complain and they left, right, and center, but his decision makers on the day cost them the game. They battered the Sharks front end. Instead of, using their weapons and using their strength in the game, they went to the line out more. Or, they tried to go close contact situations where you just bring the ball out wide, just getting the ball into Peterson and move his hands. I mean, you've got a guy like, what's his fullback, Williams, who's an extra playmaker in the team as well. I mean, they're not stupid with ball in hand. They're good with ball in hand. So, yeah, I think for the Bulls, I mean, you can't make these mistakes against a quality team like the Sharks, regardless of the 18 injuries that they do have. They still have a lot of depth. They have their pockets is deep, so they've got a lot of players there. So yeah, for me, like you say, Scoop, that period in the game is where the game changed. And Bulls should have looked at the game again and should have thought, okay, we should have went for the scrum here. We should have played the situation more, use our strength more instead of going out to the touchline and choosing to maul or 5-meter lineup. But the other thing I want to mention is game. I don't think this was the best game I watched in a while. It was all this bad quality from both teams. I don't think were up to standard yesterday. I think if you look at the skill level from the game previously in the UFC, I think the skill level was much better. Okay, this was much more intense derby than the Stormers and against the Lions. However, I still expected a little bit more in terms of the skill level and decision making. I think the younger guys in the Sharks team, like I mentioned, Juris and the other kid's name, I can't get his name now. But they had good games. They had good games yesterday. However, I still think that the Bulls should not have lost that game yesterday. I think they just threw it away. And that was into, we can select Jake White all they want, but the decision makers on the field should never make better decisions. Or the guy with the walkie-talkie should channel in the correct channel there and give the right decision from the box, because from a coaching box, because clearly the decision making was bad in the Bulls yesterday.
Yeah, guys, it's time for open mic, and so for the guys that want to chime in or ask questions as well, request now. I'm gonna open the platform very soon, actually. So while myself and Jade are still discussing, think about what you need to say, and obviously you can obviously share some of those. But Jade, looking at the number 10 fairy tale, last week we spoke and we praised, or was it 2 weeks ago, when the Bulls played the Lions? When the Bulls played the Lions at that particular time, right? And we praised Willie Leroux at 10. He did very well in marshalling the back line. But this particular weekend, he wasn't as sharp. He wasn't as commanding. He wasn't giving them a very good go forward as we've seen before, right? I mean, is the fairy tale over for Willie now at 10? And then we'll discuss Jorenzo and Ethan Hooker after that.
No, who do they have to replace him? Are they going to go back to Bula, Alphas, Bula, and Corson, those guys? Because apparently it was just a makeshift deal, because those guys were unavailable. He did make a few unforced errors yesterday as well. The one penalty he kicked dead, and then, bringing the Sharks back into the game. But there was a period yesterday, and I think it also comes a lot to Berlin, his decision making from 10 or so. In the 34th to the 37th minute thereabout, the Sharks or the Bulls had 4 or 5 penalties in the Sharks' half, in the 50 meters from the try line. So kick to touch, nothing would happen. Line up more, nothing would happen. They come back again, the Sharks would get the ball, kick it out again. But the ball never got to Willie. The ball stayed close. So you've got to be making decisions as a 10. You've got to be making and driving the team in the correct areas, as a 10, and seeing the space as wide and calling it from Papier, calling and saying, let's give it back the ball now. Don't force and hit it up front the whole time. So I don't think Billy has that in his game, compared to what another natural 10 has. However, I don't know, if there's somebody available to play 10, Bula or Horson is available, I think Jake White might just go back to them. But yeah, the Billy LaRue fairy tale might just go on at 10 because I don't think there's anybody available.
Yeah, no, I don't think, he has the minerals for that position. He's good when it comes to makeshift. He's there for a cameo. That's fine. That's all good and well. But to actually start a game from the first minute till the 80th minute, he kind of disappears a bit at times, and you don't see him because you need a 10 that's quite commanding. You need a 10, like you said, Jade, who's going to give the team direction in terms of moving forward. But looking at the youngsters, man, looking at looking at Lucanio Arm at 12, amazing ball creating a lot of space for Jurenzo, and that combination working out well. And looking at Ethan Hooker, he's been slotting in at 12, he's been slotting in at 13, he's been slotting in on the wing, and I think Jurenzo's also been doubling up at 13 and wing. But these two youngsters, I mean, every freaking chase or kick, he chased very well. I don't think Ethan Hooker missed a tackle yesterday. He was that dedicated. I mean, Jurenzo, skill level, next level. Skill level, next level. Really exciting youngsters coming through, especially in that Sharks camp. What do you think of these two kids?
Yeah, no, I prized Ethan Hooker last year already. I couldn't understand them forcing the signature on the Easter's. And when I had a kid like Ethan Hooker, who was last year already invited by Rassi Rafnos to join the box, for a few camps. So I think they were already identified as a future number 12, in this box team, or future utility back player. I mean, that's the role that he does with the Sharks at the moment. I think Jurenzo Juris has been hype all of his school career. I mean, he's always been the guy that everybody wants to see and see how he develops. And I'm so glad he's developing and he's coming of age now. He's settling into professional rugby. We asked the question last year, how many more games does Jurenzo Juris need? I mean, when is Jurenzo Juris going to get his chance? The Sharks are suffering, but there's no Jurenzo Juris. Shouldn't Jurenzo Juris rather go to the sevens? I mean, he'll get more game time. But now we can see that he's really developing well. Whether he has a cameo from the bench or whether he starts, he's putting in performances. He has an engine on him. He has a high work rate on him. Compared to a big boy, there's always a stigma with these big boys. They don't really like to work around the field. They don't really like to run around the field. But this guy, he's a big boy and he loves to work around the field, So, yeah, I think Jurenzo Juris is developing well. I think that both of them are in the wider box group, so that's actually good for their development, good for their confidence. And it's so good to have a guy like Lucanio Arm on his inside, He's really composed and, control, got a calming effect on a guy like Jurenzo Juris. So you can't take away that guy's influence yesterday, especially amongst the chaos that went on the field yesterday. What role Lucanio Arm had yesterday, and I think he had a good game as well. So yeah, I'm pleased both the development, and I think really the both of them have a long way to go.
100%. Now we're gonna bring in Ndabezinto, listener number 1, fan number 1, Blue Bulls supporter number 1. What are your thoughts?
How's it, Scoop? How's it, Jade? Terrible weekend of rugby. The Blues lost. The Bulls lost. I think my first thoughts are I think Jake White out, right? So I know I said quite a lot after the URC final about willing to give him time, but I'm not seeing the direction. I'm not seeing the progression. I'm not seeing a Bulls improving from last season. The Bulls looked deadlier this time last season than they did this season. If you look at the fixtures that we have ahead, we have the South African derbies. I think we still have the Lions and the Stormers both at home. But after that, it's business time. It's the Leinster fixture. We've been talking about the Leinster fixture, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried about the Leinster fixture because, number one, the Leinster B team is looking a little bit hot. I don't know if you guys saw the Leinster team this weekend, but the Leinster B team is looking a little hot. So even if they bring the B team, the game might be a little bit closer than we expect. But I also have a feeling that Leinster might not make the same mistake they've made over the past 3 years. I think they're going to bring the A teams. So really, I'm at a crossroads here. We have to bring the URC home or Jake White is out. And I'm not seeing the road here. I'm seeing excuses. You know, I'm watching these interviews, and I'm not getting the feeling that the Bulls camp is 100%. You know, I just look at the online presence of the players. You know, why are certain players posting on social media and other players aren't posting on social media? You can tell where a player is on the pecking order by how much online presence he has. Willie Leroux has online presence. Kanan Moody has online presence. A person like Gumede has social media. He does not post, right? So that tells you what? Are these guys scared to post an Instagram live at practice? Are they scared to just post a little TikTok? You know, you look at the Stormers, you look at the Sharks. Yes, there can be wins, there can be losses. You look at, you know, your Toulouse. But the players are having fun. You know, I just want to see the players have fun. I want to see the players messing around in the change rooms so that I know there's a positive vibe going on in the change rooms. And then come Saturday, we'll deal with Saturday. But I'm not seeing that. It's looking very tense. And all of the picture that we're getting of the change room is coming from the official Blue Bulls page. So we don't know what's the real story. So that's my thoughts on the Blue Bulls. But just one quick thought again on the Six Nations and Test Rugby and where I think Test Rugby is headed. Guys, I did a little bit of research. You guys have heard me last week saying that what European rugby is selling and what the global rugby market wants are two different things. Those are two different things. What Europe is selling and what the world wants are two different things. I told myself this weekend, if you watched the opening round of Super Rugby and you watched the opening round of the Six Nations as an American non-rugby fan, which weekend of rugby would draw you towards watching more rugby? Would it be the opening weekend of Six Nations or would it be the opening weekend of the Super Rugby? So that's just the thought for you guys. But also, final thought, if you guys have a look at the 2031 World Cup, it is being hosted in the United States of America. Now, there's a thing going on with the United States of America where the World Cup is going to be at the same time as the NFL. You guys just saw the Super Bowl happen a couple of days ago. You can see it's a big deal in America. Now, the problem with the World Cup is that it's going to be hosted, it's meant to be hosted in NFL stadiums. Now, this crosses over with this NFL season, and what the NFL is saying is they're not willing to move the NFL for us to host a Rugby World Cup. So what must happen is likely we're going to have to move the World Cup to earlier in the year, probably in June or July, to accommodate the NFL, because from September onwards, the NFL kicks off and no one is going to disturb the NFL because that would mean rescheduling the Super Bowl and all of that. So who does this affect the most? This affects the top 14 who are going to have to buckle down or not go to the 2013 or 2031 World Cup, because if the World Cup starts in July or August, that means the top 14 either has to end earlier or has to have less games in order to accommodate their French players being eligible to go to the World Cup. So that is what happens when a league thinks they're big and then they come across an even bigger league who tells them how to run things. So that is my thoughts.
Damn. Woof. That was a mouthful, right? Conspiracies here and there. Facts here and there. Jury's still out. We have Alfred Adam who wants to chime in. Alfred, go ahead. Oh, Aldred, sorry. Alfred. In 3, 2, one. Now, I think Aldred is a bit scared to go on. But anyway, Jade, listening to what Ndabezindo has said, it was a lot, it was a mouthful. Anything you want to share there that stood out for you?
Something that for the Bulls to win the URC, they're going to need a big favor, from somebody to knock Leinster somewhere, because Leinster's going to have to lose somewhere either in the semi-finals or so, or you're going to have to go away most likely against Glasgow and beat Glasgow, which is possible, but for them to they need to get a home final for them to win the final, and I don't think this looking likely this year, I really don't think so. So I don't think the Bulls will win the URC this year. However, in fact, I think the Jake White project, we have to look at it now after 3 or 4 years and see, but there's no silverware actually. So, where to next, do we get another coach in, or what do we do? In terms of what you said about France and the World Cup 2031, I don't think that panic stage is let's just talk. Remember that the next FIFA World Cup will also be held that time as well, so they can make use of their stadium for the Rugby World Cup that they're building that side, so there's quite a few stadiums in America they can use, so there's a lot of alternatives. But yeah, if push comes to shove and we move it earlier, it's going to be interesting to see what the French top 14 does. But yeah, for me, that's the thing that, the Bulls, they need to play at home to win the URC. They need to get home, semi-final and home final.
All right, Langa, you want to share something quickly?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
You are live on Mabaleng.
No, I'm a Thomas supporter. What I want to say is, the Stormers just need only the fly half. We don't have a good fly half that can keep. We don't have a kicker. I'm telling you, we're suffering there.
All right, is that it?
That's my point.
All right, thanks, Langa. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, another question.
Thanks, Langa. Thanks. Jade, looking at the particular aspect regarding Six Nations predictions next week, right? We've got Wales, Ireland, England, Scotland, Italy, France, and then we are out of here.
Yeah, so I think first game, I think it's the only game that you really need to think about the Cup. I don't know which way it will go. I want Scotland to win, but I think England, after they give a game against France and playing in Twickenham, I think they might just win next week. So I'm going England there against France. I'm going Ireland against Wales, and obviously England against Scotland, Ireland against Wales, and then obviously France to win Italy.
See, my plan is coming along. I told you guys, watch out for that English team. But got England as well. Will probably disappoint next week, who knows. But if they win convincingly next week, it's a big showdown then between... Oh, no, it's not a big showdown. Actually. Yeah, they lost against Ireland, but they won against France.
It depends on the French-Irish game.
But then they also have Italy and Wales after this. Oh.
Yeah, they win next week. They'll need France to beat Ireland to help them.
Fair. Oh, wow. It's turning out to be a very good competition. But anyway, guys, we've come to the end of this particular segment of this week's show. Thank you all for listening in. Thank you all for sharing and also commenting down below, also on the thread, which has been great. Been a good conversation. This has been a good Rugby Scoop, Sunday Scoop. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you guys next week, same time, same place, Rugby Scoop.
Cheers, guys. Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers, lads.